Hey, fifth grade. Hey, seventh grade. It's really nice to actually be talking to you on this video instead of just looking at Google Classroom. So hopefully this little change up, this little shake up is a little nice refresher for you too. Today we're going to talk about rhythms. This is my term, level one. This isn't a technical music term. So if you Google rhythm level one, I don't know what you're gonna get, but that's my word for it. And what it is specifically is time signatures with whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, and rests that are the same length as those. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our objectives for today. After completing this assignment, you will be able to understand the purpose of a time signature, identify the time signature in a piece of written music, determine the way rhythms should be counted for a piece of music, and count rhythms in 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 time. So, to begin, imagine yourself driving a car. You're going to drive from your house to the store. What store? I don't know. Any store you want. You turn on your car, put on your seatbelt, load up your playlist, start your navigation app like Google Maps or Waze or Apple Maps, whatever you use is fine, and you start to drive. You could drive very slowly or very quickly. However, there are speed limits telling you how fast or slow you should drive. As you drive, you turn from street to street. Some streets might be longer or shorter, but most streets are generally about the same length. All of the streets have a few different kinds and sizes of buildings, depending on where they are in the city. You can see some empty lots sometimes too, and those are different sizes as well, but you see buildings and lots. They're kind of mixed together. As you're driving around, you follow directions from traffic lights, street signs, your navigation app. These signs, they tell you where you can and cannot turn, when you can and cannot turn. They tell you whether you're going the right way. They tell you when to stop and when to go. They also tell you when to speed up or slow down. They let you know to watch out for pedestrians or other cars. And these signs can also let you know that there's things coming up ahead, like, oh, there's damage to the road ahead, or road work, or this street is closed today, or plenty of other things. But these signs, they give you information about where you're driving and what you need to do as a driver. Finally, you arrive at your destination and you park your car, you turn it off, you take the keys out, and you go and do what you need to do. Notice that these parking spaces in particular have double lines. I specifically chose those for a reason. When we get to level 2, I'm going to ask you about that. So remember, double lines. So reading music is like driving a car, only easier. And I'm sorry for that little glitch right there. I've tried to make this picture appear for so many times, and it has not worked. So bear with me. I apologize. So there's a speed limit. It tells you how fast that you can drive. Well, when you perform music, there's a tempo. It tells you how fast or slow to perform. When you're driving, there are streets or blocks. It's what you drive on. When you play music, you have the meter or measures. Those are groupings of beats that show you where to play. Each street or block might be a different grouping. When you drive, there are different buildings and lots that you'll pass by. There are different kinds of streets or neighborhoods, and they have different kinds of buildings, different sizes, different shapes, different purposes. Some buildings are schools. Some buildings are stores. Some buildings are churches. Some buildings are offices. Lots of different purposes. Some buildings are taller. Some buildings are shorter. And houses mostly stay on their own block. Well, when you're playing music, there are different kinds of notes and rests. They each have different lengths, and there are different kinds of symbols and purposes for each of them. Some notes are higher, some notes are lower. This is one difference where it's not like driving. Notes can stretch between measures. It takes a special kind of symbol that's kind of level 2 for me. So next week we'll talk about that a little more. But just know that that's the one difference really with driving or with buildings in a city. Notes can stretch between measures. Houses can't really stretch across the street, not unless it's a really special kind of house. When you're driving, there are street signs, traffic lights, road markings, whatever, that give you additional information and rules to follow. When you're playing music, there are various kinds of markings and symbols that give you information about the tempo, how fast or slow to play, the volume, how loud or quiet, the articulation, is it separate or is it smooth and connected? And it might tell you what to play next, whether you're repeating something or whether the piece is ending, or maybe you go back and play only a certain section of the piece that you already played. There are lots of different possibilities, but the key point is that there are markings or symbols that tell you what to do and when. The four big things I want you to take away from today, besides how to count rhythms, are rhythm, beats, meter, and tempo. A rhythm is a pattern of long and short sounds. For example, beats are units for measuring rhythm. So if I were thinking about the rhythm I just played, here it is again, and I was counting how many beats I played, I might say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That was two groups of four. So I might say that I played for 8 beats. Notice I said two groups of four. That is an example of meter. That's the organizing of beats into groups. These groups usually have the same number of beats in each. Otherwise, the meter has changed. The tempo is the speed of a piece of music, how fast or slow it is. Now, how am I going to remember that? Because that's a lot. Well, Mr. Rivera thought he might help us. And if you're thinking rhythm, R, beat, B, meter, M, tempo, T, you can think Rivera brought meatballs today. Thank you, Mr. Rivera, for this wonderful visual. RBMT, Rivera brought meatballs today, or rhythm, beats, meter, tempo. Time signature. This is what we're really working with today with your assignment. A time signature is a pair of numbers at the beginning of a piece of written music that helps you figure out the meter, how we are organizing the beats. The top number tells you how many beats are in a measure, and the bottom number tells you which kind of note you count beats with. Usually. Okay, sometimes. Okay, it's kind of complicated. We're going to get to that. That's a level 3 kind of thing. Just know for now, it's usually going to tell you, for the most part, how long the measure is, how many beats your measure is, and just know that you can combine certain kinds of beats into larger beats, and sometimes we count with those instead. So, but we'll get to that. Don't worry about that for now. Here's an example of a time signature. It says 4/4. That means 4 quarter notes in that measure. The 4 on top is the number of beats, and the 4 on the bottom tells us that it's a quarter note. Here's our rhythm starter pack. Don't worry about the eighth notes and eighth rests for now. Just focus on the first 3. Whole note, half note, quarter note. There are also whole rests, half rests, and quarter rests. A whole note in 4/4 time lasts for 4 beats. A half note in 4/4 time lasts for 2 beats. A quarter note lasts for 1 beat. So a quarter note in 4/4 time is a quarter of a measure. That's why it's called a quarter note. The rest means don't play or don't sing for that period of time. So if there is a whole rest, that means that I won't play or sing for 4 beats in 4/4 time. A half rest means don't play or sing for 2 beats. A quarter rest means don't play or sing for 1 beat. Pause this video and ask yourself how long you think an eighth note is relative to a quarter note. How many eighth notes can you play in the space of 1 quarter note? Think about that. Pause it now. No, really, pause it, please. Okay, I really hope you paused it, or at least thought about it. And just notice that each note or rest is half the value of the one to its left. So if you were thinking, if it's half the value and an eighth note, and I need to play a certain number of eighth notes in the space of a quarter note, then 1 quarter note is 2 eighth notes. So I can play 2 eighth notes in the space of 1 quarter note. Measures help us organize music. Notice the time signature at the very beginning of that piece of music. There are 2 measures, 2 groupings of 4 quarter notes. These are separated by a bar line. This bar line helps us understand where the groupings are when we're reading the music. If it weren't there, then we might get confused that there's more beats in the grouping than the time signature says there should be. So that bar line is a helpful visual divider. That's not telling you to play or sing anything necessarily. It's just helping you organize visually with your eyes what you are seeing when you read music. This rhythm sounds like this when you clap it out. So we're now getting to your assignment for this week. In 4/4 time, we can write the beat numbers below the notes, and we know that it's 4 quarter notes in a measure. We know this because there's a 4 on the bottom, so beats are the length of quarter notes, and the top number is a 4, so we know that there are 4 beats. We're going to put numbers below each beat, and when it's a rest, we're going to add parentheses. So for example, the first measure has 4 quarter notes in it, so it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. In the second measure, there's some rests. So we're going to put parentheses around the beats that there are rests. For example, beats 2 and 4. Here's what the whole line sounds like when I clap it and count it at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want, pause the video now and try clapping that and counting it at the same time. Your worksheet for today. We actually can't do this in slideshow view, so I'm going to take you out of that for a second. Notice that there are text boxes below each of these notes. When you're doing your assignment, you're going to double click in the text box. We'll take this one, that example that I already did. And you're going to go, which beat is that? Oh yeah, that's beat 1. That's the only thing I'm going to write in that text box. To do the next one, I'm going to double click in that text box and I'm going to write the beat number. So I can keep doing this for a while, but I'm of course going to give you a chance to do it yourself. When you get to something with a rest, I'll use this one as an example. Notice the text box is a little bit bigger. That's necessary because you're going to use parentheses. And that, again, lets us know that it's a rest. So go ahead, do this worksheet. There is an additional worksheet that I'm going to make you aware of You'll read this slide, and that is the same as what we were talking about with the different kinds of note values and rest values. It reminds you how many beats is a quarter note, half note, and whole note, and it gives you an example of what that might look like for the different note and rest types in 4/4. So we have all 6 kinds here, all 3 kinds of notes, and also on all 3 kinds of rests. If you go to the next slide, you'll see worksheet number 2. And for this one, you'll have not just quarter notes, but you'll also have half notes and half rests, and whole notes and whole rests. So go ahead. If you have any questions, please get in touch with me. I really, really, really cannot wait to see all of you again. I know this quarantine has been totally ruining everyone's vibe. So keep your spirits up. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll probably do a Zoom office hours or a Zoom check-in later on in the week. So look out for some information about that. I really hope to see you guys soon. I hope you guys are safe and healthy and happy. And thank you so much. Have a great night.